Carol Shally, Town Solicitor Joanna McKilly, planner appointee Cheryl Maynard, stenographer Carol Mulata, and all of the other people whose names are on the sign-in sheet, which will be included with the minutes, and Helen Hardy, secretary.
Okay, thank you.
Who did I miss?
Sergio's not here yet.
Excuse, thank you.
Oh, excuse me, I'm not sure what I did her vote. Okay, accept the minute, motion for the minutes at this time for March 15th.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes for March 15, 2017, that may be amended.
Second by Rick. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say, Joe, for a person to be excused, they should have to contact the chair or the secretary to ask to be excused. If they're just not here, they're excused automatically.
Yeah, normally the planner would handle it. We haven't had a planner for about 2 months.
Well, from now on.
I'm sure we will in the future. Thank you, Rick. Did you have any discussion on the minutes?
I had shown Carol Shally a couple of things which were just purely
Housekeeping?
clear, thank you. But I did have a question, and this wasn't my memory, and so you guys will remember better. On page 2 of the minutes
Of March 15th?
of March 15th, if you go down, there's Mr. Carey, Mr. Servacio, Kevin Delaney, Ms. Hardy, and then finally, Mr. Carey asked if the submitted propagation study showed the proposed Cucumber Hill coverage. Mr. Delaney replied in the affirmative and said the yellow portions of the map represent, and here was what I was not sure, this wasn't the way I remember, represent coverage from vehicles, and the blue was coverage while walking. Is that what you remember?
I believe he meant, what he said was that when you're in your vehicle, the coverage, and when you're walking, there was better coverage. So outside the car, you would have reception. If you were in your vehicle, you wouldn't.
Okay, all right, so, that's fine. So, no, nothing.
Anything else? Hearing none, all in favor? Aaron, aye.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes of May 3rd, 2017, and that may be amended.
Second? Second by Rick. Discussion?
No,
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Moving on. Is there any correspondence this evening from anybody? Board members' reports, is there anything in the land trust?
Nothing.
And Conservation Commission, there's no meetings. All right, so there's no reports that's available at this time. Next thing on the agenda is the major land development. Before we start, I'm just going to read the hearing procedure for the public hearings into the record. Any person who wishes to speak will sign in with his or her name and address and will be placed under oath. All questions and statements must be addressed to the board. There will be no crosstalk in the audience. Once the application is read, the chair will hear from the applicant first. It is the applicant's burden to present evidence supporting his or her request. The presentation must be clear and to the point. After the applicant has completed his or her presentation and the board has asked any questions to their satisfaction, the hearing will be opened up to the public. Once all testimony is heard, the board will close public comment and wrap up discussion. The chair will then accept the motion to approve the application along with the required findings of fact and conditions. The board reserves the right to postpone a decision until the next regularly scheduled meeting on any hearing. Okay, at this time, I will read the first application. The first master plan, public informational meeting of applicant Danielson Pike Solar, LLC, and owner Northwest Community Healthcare to construct a 950 kilowatt DC, 720 kilowatt AC, ground-mounted solar installation encompassing approximately 2.5 acres, separated into 2 arrays, and related access drives and gates, vegetated buffer, soil erosion and sedimentation control measures, stormwater drainage best management practices, and electric service extension and structures. Excuse me. Located on Danielson Pike by poles 191 to 195 and at the intersection with Shippey Schoolhouse Road on 7.088 acres, being Plat 10, Lot 20, in a general business mixed-use GBM district, and require a recommendation to the zoning board of review for a special use permit. Okay, at this time, I will let the applicant present.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Jennifer Cervenka. I'm here on behalf of applicant Danielson Solar.
I'm sorry, what's your name, please? Are you an attorney?
I am.
Okay, listen. Just spell your last name, please.
Yes, CERVENKA.
Thank you.
And Chairman, I do have with me 2 individuals who will also speak on behalf of the application. Our consultant, Mr. Jason Gould from ESS, and Mr. John Tapatis, who is the principal representative of the applicant. Would you like them sworn in at this time?
We can swear them in now.
Gentlemen, please stand up, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, when you give testimony, I'll get your names. Thank you.
Thank you. As you had just read, we're here on a master plan application. We were here a couple of weeks ago on a pre-application meeting, and the plan that we presented to the board at that time is the same plan that we are presenting here tonight. We had identified through some board discussion one concern that the board had that we have a little bit of information on but not yet resolved. We'll get to that a little bit later. But as you read, this is a major land development solar installation divided into a western and eastern array, separated in the middle by wetlands which have been delineated, surrounded by a 15-foot interior access buffer, a 9-foot security fence, and a 30 and in some places 20-foot vegetated buffer in accordance with the solar ordinance. The arrays will be located on approximately 2.6 acres of a 7-acre parcel, and the setbacks in all cases have been met under the ordinance. The property is at the intersection of Danielson Pike, Route 6, and Shippey Schoolhouse Road. And there will be, or as is proposed, 2 access driveways that come off of the Route 6, one to the western array, one to the eastern array. The concern that was voiced by the board last time was whether or not it was a safety issue having the access driveway for the western array come off of Route 6. And then some discussion of whether or not it would be better placed on the Shippey Schoolhouse Road. I think there was some differences of opinion on the board, but we committed at that time that we would explore that. Mr. Tapatis will talk about some communications he's had with the chief of police about that intersection, which we understand is probably the most dangerous intersection in the town, so we want to be sensitive to that. And we've also had some back and forth with the Department of Transportation, but nothing real substantive yet about the location of that driveway, and we'll have to continue to work through that issue and figure it out. Something that we have discussed amongst our team is whether or not we would locate the access drive for the western array on Shippey Schoolhouse Road for purposes of construction, where there would be more activity back and forth, but then have the permanent driveway located off of Route 6. I think Mr. Tapatis testified last time that the visits to the solar arrays would be periodic, would be perhaps quarterly, so it's not really a lot of ingress and egress going on after construction is established. As required by the subdivision and major land development regulations, we did provide the required notice to abutters within the 400-foot radius. And I have copies of those receipts and the cards we received back that I would be happy to present to someone. I'm not sure exactly what the protocol is, perhaps to the new planner when you start. We also published the notice of this meeting and the application in the Valley Breeze in the required period of time. The staff report that was prepared by the former planning director has a number of conditions that are listed at the end of her report, and we've gone through those and we agree with those conditions. They're fairly straightforward and they do follow the solar ordinance. Just taking a few, condition 2, National Grid Service Agreement shall be finalized and provided as part of the next land development review submission. We do have that agreement. We will provide that before our next stage, preliminary and final. The condition 3, all relevant installation components will be finalized again before the next stage. We will have that done. Condition 5 references the state permits that we would need, the physical alteration permit and the wetlands permit from Department of Environmental Management. We will be submitting for those formally if we get approval here tonight. And we'll have them prior to us coming back if we get to proceed. Condition 6, operation and maintenance plan and decommission plan along with liability insurance. Again, we will provide those. And condition 7, we will calculate the cost of removal before we're back here for purposes of a surety bond. And then condition 9, that reflects a request that we made for a combination of the preliminary and final plan approvals. One of the, as you read earlier, one of the votes that would take place tonight would be whether or not there would be recommendation to the zoning board of review to grant the special use permit. And to that end, I would just note that our proposed plan is consistent with the solar ordinance that was promulgated in 2015 and will be consistent with that. And then one of the criteria for a special use permit is that the project will not impair or alter the general character of the surrounding area or the intent or purpose of the comprehensive plan. So I would note that the area that the project would go into is a general business mixed-use area, so it is consistent with the general uses in the area. It's along a commercial highway, and 2 of the goals of the comprehensive plan are the attracting of new business to Route 6 and also the diversification of the local economy in a way that's harmonious with the rural character of the town, and I believe that this project does fit squarely with those goals. It will be located along Route 6. It's a fairly passive use of the land, and it is well vegetated, so you essentially are not going to see all the arrays because of the buffers. With those comments, if there are none for me on what I've just said, I do want to ask Mr. Tapatis to come up and talk about his discussions with the chief of police. And then I want to have Mr. Gold from ESS, our consultant, to walk you through a little bit more of the details of the proposed plan.
So, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I've been thinking, chance of fire or lightning on these projects. Any?
Would it attract it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds
Yeah,
silly, but
Yeah.
it just hit me, Gordon's a fireman. I'm sitting there thinking about getting into this facility for the fire guys. So maybe, Gordon, what do you call those?
I think they require a lock Knox box.
Yeah, okay, there it is. All right,
And-
so maybe that should be a condition.
That is part of our,
It is.
Yes,
Sorry.
okay, yeah, right,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah,
thank you.
thanks.
So state, spell your full name for the record.
John, John, last name is Tapatis, Typadis.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening to the board. We do appreciate the opportunity to come back in front of you. I'm here representing Danielson Pike Solar, which is a 950 megawatt DC solar facility. We've been working with Northwest Community Healthcare in Well Run, Rhode Island for the past year or so to develop what we think is a good project that will be a respectful neighbor and a good member of the community. We think it's a benign use and a very passive use for this kind of an area. We think it fits with the zoning of the property as it is today, and we also think that it is consistent with the comprehensive plan and future planned commercial development in that corner. I don't have much else to add. I think Jen has set things up really nicely. I will talk a little bit about I will talk a little bit more about the exchange that I had with Chief Zeal earlier today. His concern was the proximity of the westernmost access for the western array, and that it may be a little bit too close to the intersection at Shippey Schoolhouse Road and Danielson Pike. In talking with him, he suggested a couple of things. One was, moving the access to Shippey Schoolhouse Road. We both kind of conceded that may be a little bit of an issue considering the narrowness of Shippey Schoolhouse Road relative to Danielson Pike. Happy to explore it, as things move along. The other suggestion that he had was to move the access as we proposed it as far east as we can, not kind of bumping into the wetlands. And, as we've designed it here, we do have some room to work with. So we're happy to explore that option as well. He had told me that the intersection has been studied by RIDOT for some upgrades, I think a traffic light and or maybe taking a piece off of the hill to improve sightline. He's going to follow up, I think, with the Bureau of Highway Safety tomorrow, as well as try to get in touch with RIDOT, as he mentioned to me, to try to find out a little bit more in terms of what the plans are for the intersection. The last thing that we want to do is cause, a safety concern or a problem over the intersection. I'll reiterate that, during the construction period, which would be between approximately 8 to 12 weeks, there will be daily traffic at the site, which is not uncommon for something that's being developed anywhere. After that, as Jen said, visits to the site will be quarterly, for inspection, for landscaping, and then as needed, if a breaker were to trip or something like that. So that's the extent of my exchange with Chief Zeal, but, I mentioned to him, we're happy to work with the PD to come up with any kind of solution that will keep safety at a maximum and not cause any hazards at that intersection.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Tapatis?
One of the things that we like to see is the annual training session for our first responders, fire, police, rescue. There's always a potential for injury on site, and safe access requires a knowledge of lockout, tagout for your particular array. That would be one thing that would be covered. Presence of any hazardous material, and I don't know what kind of panels you're using, but some of them have composite material in them.
We're using the latest, Hanwha or LG or.
Yeah, they have composite material, and if you want to, and I'm not questioning it, I'm just saying, your company, okay, based on the equipment that you install, you'll have that information available for our first responders, so that if in fact there is an emergency that requires evacuation, they're familiar with lockout, tagout, so they can shut the system down. They're familiar with the hazards that may be related to the emergency. And the annual training, okay, which helps the town adjust to the aging process.
Sure.
Because as time goes on, vegetation changes, access, maybe inhibited, gate locks and so forth. These are all good things, and it really is a tremendous incentive for our first responders because they're not familiar with this equipment.
Okay.
This is kind of driven by the fact that the array really can't be shut down. As long as the sun is shining, those panels are producing electricity to the inverter. So these types, and again, I'm not questioning you, I'm not asking you to validate anything, but there are some inherent concerns that we've addressed in conditions in the past. Ron and I just took a quick look at the conditions, and we just want to be sure that that's not a burden to you, and it's certainly an advantage to our folks here.
Safety is the number one
Yes.
concern. I totally understand that. I can tell you that, as you described it, everything is totally correct. There are, shut-off switches, and reclosers and stuff like that, that's mandated by National Grid that will be there. And then also, I think we may have the ability to remote shut something off as well.
And what dovetails with that, obviously, the annual training, I guess the real reason for the annual training is our first responders change and your employees change.
That's
So
absolutely.
contact information gets updated at that time,
Absolutely.
and that's really important.
I mean, we also commit to, landscaping, on a regular basis to keep access and egress available for everybody as well.
Joe, I can't find any comment about a Knox box in any of these documents.
Yes.
I just want to say on here, there's an access gate with emergency lockbox.
Okay. Mike, did you want to make that one of, another condition somewhere along?
Yeah, I didn't see it jumping out at us, but that's something.
Yeah.
I wanted to make it a condition.
As a condition, and also just the Knox box, we've done a number of these, and I have to say that I thought that it was included, but I did the same thing and went back through it, and I'm not finding it, so,
I think what it
we
is,
thought we had already required, we felt we had already made it a condition, I think.
Yeah.
We have it as designed on the
Yeah.
plan.
You, I know you're not going to have a problem with
I think what happens when they submit the design and they talk about the access and insurance things, that they mention that they are going to be interpreted, and that's when we bring it up. I don't think you make it as a condition because they already have it on their plans that they're going to install it, but we can make it a condition.
I'd like it to be a condition.
But that's the reason, you're not going to find it,
it. Yeah.
just because it's in the design.
Okay, thanks for clarifying
We
that.
go, there's a condition here, Helen.
Thank you.
An operation and maintenance plan, a decommission plan, and a proof of liability insurance shall be finalized and provided as part of the next plan.
And so that would be a part of the operation
Just
and
maintenance
maintenance
plan,
plan.
right, so the operation and maintenance plan, we could add that as a condition.
You could just say, can we amend that to say including?
You can amend that to say including annual training for
Months and annual training
Yes,
for first
yes.
responders.
as far as the box is in the plan, but I would amend it there.
We can, after we,
So we can make a motion.
we'll make,
At the end.
we can make a motion after, public comment, we'll bring it back to the board and add whatever we need. Now, Ron, you wanted to add for the Knox box in there?
I don't know.
You want to make that condition 10, or you want to include?
Yeah, I
I
want,
think we can, you think we can include it all together?
yeah, it's fine.
With condition 6,
Yeah, I think it's all.
An operation and maintenance plan, an annual training plan, and a,
operation and maintenance plan, I think we said to include annual training for first responders.
yes. But that doesn't specifically say lockbox.
Access by a Knox, a Knox box.
Knox box, right, Cory?
Knox box.
Is it Knox as in
No.
K-N-O? I don't know
Yeah,
what.
like Fort Knox.
It's
Just,
K-N-O-X.
you guys are aware on how that works, what it is the fire trucks have a locked key that can't be released unless we call the police department, it gets recorded. That key is then released, it knows when it's released. We go to a box that's locked, that key opens that box in which his keys to the gates will be in. And when the key's returned, it's also recorded, the key's returned
We've
back in.
included this in all the other solar, and I
Yes.
think, this is something that we can add in the next step also, when we go to the preliminary final.
I'm trying to add something much more basic than that, sorry to be ignorant. But is it Knox box?
K-N-O-X, yes.
K-N-O-X as in somebody's name.
Like at Fort Knox,
Or Donnie Knox.
Thank you.
oh, you want to include it here or in the next step?
We can discuss that when we bring it back to the board after the public hearing and see whatever, when we get all the information tonight, we'll do all our amendments before we make the motion.
That's
I
fine,
think it'll be easier that way instead
that's,
of trying
that's
to
fine.
do it as we go.
I'll just give it a jump
We'll
out,
just
that's
make notes as we go and then we'll
Okay, no problem.
decide that. Okay, did anybody else have anything from Mr. Potts? Yeah.
I'm just curious, how far east is the potential to move the access opening on the west already?
Yeah, I mean, right now, I estimated that this is about 60 feet. We have the potential, I think, of another perhaps 60 to 80 more feet until we get to the perimeter wetlands, and we'd like to stay away from those.
Anybody else have a question?
More basic, and I'm not sure who I'm asking this of, but are the commercial solar installations taxable by the town? I know that private installations, you are exempt from town assessment.
Correct. This would be taxable by the town.
So the commercial installations are
Correct.
taxable for the equipment or whatever.
Correct.
Nothing further, Mr. Potts?
Thank you.
So just state and spell your full name, please.
Jason, J-A-S-O-N, Cole, G-O-L-D.
Thank you.
There's not much left for me to say. I don't want to waste your time repeating what everything else was said. The only thing I can think that hasn't been mentioned already is Rhode Island DM permitting. So we met with Pride at a pre-application meeting about a month or so ago, showing them a concept. They seemed supportive of it, didn't raise any concerns. All of our proposed work is outside of the 50-foot perimeter wetlands. The site will be grass, so there's not going to be much, if any, increase in runoff. We do reserve some space for drainage features, just in case as the design comes along, we need to provide some kind of stormwater mitigation. We'll submit a preliminary determination application to them once the design is done, and I anticipate either an insignificant alteration permit or a determination of non-jurisdiction. Mentioned, there's a historic cemetery off the northwest corner. I don't think that's been mentioned yet. The project's not going to impact that at all. We're not doing any work in that area. The vegetative buffer will be maintained within the side yard setbacks. All the electrical lines will be underground, with the exception of an overhead crossing where we need to cross the wetlands. There are no exterior lighting or prohibited signage proposed. Anything else to address?
Can I ask you a question,
Yes.
just backing up a little?
Yeah.
You said the cemetery is not going to impact. I noticed that there was an easement shown on one of the prior plans for that. My query is there an easement shown on any other surrounding lots for access to that cemetery?
Yeah, access to the cemetery is actually on the other lot to the north, so access is on this side.
Okay, so there's physical access on the other
Yes.
side,
Yeah,
and this one here is only like a paper access, okay?
right, it's the cemetery itself. The side that's on the site is a wall, so there's no access to that.
And there's no actual easement that's recorded in the land evidence records. It's shown on a plan, but if it would be prescriptive, it wouldn't be anything specifically granted.
No, but the wall itself is part of the cemetery, correct?
The wall itself, yes.
Yes. So the wall can't be touched, it has to be maintained.
Yes.
And the wall's within the setback.
The
Yeah, I
flag
know.
is outside the wall, I went and viewed the site the other day, so their flag of the lot is outside the wall.
It'll be outside the buffer,
Right.
vegetated buffer.
I just want to make sure that this,
Helen, did you have something?
I have a question.
Okay, yeah, so it's been mentioned already, we submitted a concept plan also to Rhode Island DOT to get their feedback. We got a little bit of feedback this morning, but nothing regarding the location of the driveways, which is what we've been waiting for. So we're still waiting on information on that.
I was just wondering, Mark, can you say how much clearing you will be doing for the installation?
The arrays themselves occupy about 2.6 of the 7 acres.
Yeah,
The actual clearing is the extra 15-foot perimeter around that,
yeah.
so it's a little more than 2.6 acres. Yes.
Is there a specific engineer you're dealing with to write up?
Her name is Luann, right?
You be changing the grade of the property?
Oh, no, the grading won't change much, if anything, maybe, maybe smoothing out some areas where there's an old foundation, but no major grading.
So it would affect the runoff at all?
No, the drainage patterns will remain the same.
Anything else from Mr. Gold? Alan? Anything else from the applicant?
Just, it's Luann Nevin at White Oak, just to answer your question. Okay, all right. That's all for our presentation, unless there are further questions. Thank you.
I think we covered everything, answered most of my questions in the beginning, so. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. So if there's anybody from the public at this time who'd like to speak in favor of this project? Anybody like to speak in favor of the project? Hearing none. Is there anybody who'd like to speak against the project? Please come forward and be sworn in, please.
Sure.
Raise your hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about taking this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? State, please, and spell your full name.
Gregory Jackson. And I'm not really against the project. My concern is I'm their neighbor, so I am 46 Shipley Schoolhouse Road. And from the research that I've done on some of these projects, some of the questions I have for you are the concerns about some of the runoff where, as you know, the wetlands flow through the back of my property and Shelley Peasants. So,
Mr. Jackson, please address the board.
Adjusted what?
Address the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm trying to look at the layout. But my concern is more some of the things that are hot of producing the panels and the runoff that's gonna go into our wells and things of that nature. I'm sure sure you've done your due diligence and you know some of the type of toxic chemicals they use to produce these panels, which is, you can look up anywhere, obviously. So you're using nitric acids, sulfuric acids, trichloroethylene, which is one of the highest level carcinogens known to man, which will be part of your surface area that's going to run off with the rain. So, my concern is, again, what happens when my well gets polluted from that? Do I have any type of recourse with you, or do I have any type of recourse with the town? My concern is my property. You put this next to my house, it's an eyesore, how much are you gonna give me off on my taxes? Because my property value is going down when this goes next to me. What's my recourse with the town of Worcester? None, correct? So are we considering any of the property owners adjacent to that and the devaluation of their property? Are we considering any of the runoff that goes into the wells? Because my well is probably, what, a couple 100 feet from where the runoff will be created? Have you all considered that? Is there no issue there that I have to worry about, and will you sign off on that?
We can ask the applicant if it's...
And I'm not against renewable energy at all, but if I'm gonna be your neighbor, I wanna have my family be safe. And as Gordon said, who I know from being a councilman, I'd much rather have you there than a gas station. Okay? So,
Mr. Jackson, as far as the property value, if you have substantial proof that it would affect your value, you can, discuss it with the tax assessor, and, they can change your value as far as your tax burden. That's the only thing the town can do as far as that.
Actually, your taxes will go down, or your rate of increase will slow when they start paying taxes. I'm gonna ask them something to your regard though, about cleanliness.
Do you have anything further, Mr. Jackson?
no, I don't.
Okay. I'd ask the applicant this time if there's
Can the
any,
applicant also
to
address,
address his concerns.
can they also address the buffer, can the applicant also just address the vegetative buffer between the installation and his property?
One thing, a clarification, just a clarification. Shelley Pezza is the closest house, is that correct?
No, she's my neighbor on the opposite side, so I would be adjacent to them, she would be adjacent to me.
Right.
Well, let the applicant just address his concerns at this time, so clarify for him. Mr. Jackson. Thank you.
So I would just start with the visibility concern. We have a 30 and 20 foot buffer, vegetated buffer that's not going to be disturbed. And it's part of your solar ordinance to minimize impact to abutters. We're abiding by that, we're exceeding that. That's one. Two, and I'll have Mr. Tapadas speak more to this because he has more experience in it, but there will not be hazardous materials generated that's a byproduct of these panels that will get into drainage that can get into a well. And we would be happy to address that in the operation plan if we need to make an affirmative representation to that effect. With respect to property values, we have at least one study that we can supply to the board and to Mr. Jackson that shows that it is not a negative impact on property values. We, in addition to that, I'll let Mr. Tapadas speak. We would be happy to talk to Mr. Jackson, try to work with him so that he understands what we're doing, and ensure that we are minimizing the impact in accordance with the solar ordinance and to address your concerns. Mr. Tapadas?
Yeah, the first thing I'll say is, the panels themselves do contain certain elements. The material that is on the outside of the panel is tempered glass. And when it rains, just like water would fall off of your car window, water would fall off of the panels. So there's nothing in the glass or the casing that would contribute to, adverse impacts or anything like that. a lot of the maintenance manuals actually recommend simply just washing them with rainwater, letting things rain and run off, just like that. Like Jen said, we're happy to talk with Mr. Jackson, happy to work with him, happy to work with the neighbors too, and address their concerns and answer any questions.
What if they leak? Does they wash something in the panels?
Yeah, so we've definitely done our research, we've taken a look at all sorts of types of panels, and we've come across a couple of studies where panel manufacturers have actually taken the panels, cracked them on purpose, so that they could simulate something coming out of a panel. And leaching is what they would call de minimis. It basically doesn't exist, and we're happy to provide examples of that to show you guys that that's the case.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak in opposition to this project? Is there any general comments on this project from the public? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing at this time. Moving on, back to the board. Before we continue discussion, I was just going to add the exhibits to the record. The applicant had no concerns with the staff report, I believe. You're fine with that. So I will make...
You want a motion?
No, I just gotta do the staff report. I mean, exhibits. All right. The town's exhibit 1 would be the full set of plans with attachments would be marked as town exhibit number 1. And that includes all of the information that we've received, the maps, and all the different information on the panel, etc. And the staff report will be marked as town exhibit number 2. Okay, at this time, go back to discussion with the board. Did you want to amend the motion before we accept the motion on this? Are there any further questions from the board?
You gotta have a motion first, right?
Well, if we want to have any amendment, did we want to add any conditions at this time, or do you want to?
All right, I'd like to add the condition to number 6, as stated by Mike, a training, yearly training, and mine, just a mention of a Knox box.
And I think that Knox box fits perfectly in condition 3. After
Okay.
we talk about emergency access, you can say to include a Knox box. So that would-
Okay. So number 6, add training, and number 3, add a Knox box.
Is that sufficient, Mike?
Were there any other questions from the board after comments from the public at this time? Did you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, hearing none, I'll accept the motion at this time. You want to take a short recess so we can just make sure it's, yeah, so we can add in this stuff, make sure it's read into the record properly. We'll take just a couple minutes. We have no
Recess at 7:50.
I just wanted to give your contact information. I know, but I don't have
No, they
There is,
Within probably a 3-hour period.
Oh, God. I've heard this before. I have like
I've never been, and I just hear it's a major eye-opener. We're staying in that, well, I don't discover
Alright, I'm gonna call the planning board meeting back into session at 7:55. Alright, at this time, I would accept the motion.
Mr. Chair, at this time, I'd like to make a motion for grant master plan approval for the proposed solar installation. Whereas representatives of the applicant, Dennis and Dyke Solar LLC, and owner of Northwest Community Health Center appeared before the planning board for property located on Danielson Pike by poles 191 and 195 through 195, and at the intersection with Shippey Schoolhouse Road, being Plot 10, Lot 20, on 7.088 acres in the general business mixed-use GBM district, to instruct a 950 kilowatt DC, 700 kilowatt WAC ground-mounted solar installation encompassing approximately 2.58 acres, separated by 2 arrays and related access drives and gates, designated buffer and soil erosion and sedimentation control measures, stormwater as far as drainage, dust management practices, and electrical service extensions and structures. And whereas the planning board received reports and testimony from town departments, abutting property owners, and representatives of the applicant regarding the application, and whereas the planning board heard the land development proposal of the pre-application on May 3rd, 2017, and whereas the development meets historic cemetery setback, off-street loading and off-street parking requirements, and no land dedication or payment in lieu is required because no lots are being created. And whereas the solar installation requires a special use permit from the zoning board of review. Further, having considered the requirements of Rhode Island General Laws of 1956 as amended section 45.4330, and based on the hearing conducted before the planning board and on testimony presented to the board and recommendations of the staff, and review and consideration of the exhibits made part of the record, and personal knowledge of the area in question. Now, the approval is subject to the following conditions. Condition number 1, master plan approval is based on plans entitled Proposed 950 kilowatt solar array master plan, revised 4/24/2017, and marked as town exhibit 1 at the May 17, 2017 hearing, prepared by ESS Group, stamped and signed by Jason M. Gold, registered professional engineer. 2, National Grid Service Agreement shall be finalized and provided as part of the next land development review submission. Condition number 3, fencing, signage, lighting, emergency access to include a lock, Knox box, grading and drainage details, and UL listing or equivalent of all relevant installation components shall be finalized and provided as part of the next land development review submission. Condition 4, the installation shall be in compliance with Rhode Island State Building Code and Rhode Island State Electrical Code, and shall be subject to periodic inspections by the Forest Building Official. Condition 5, RIDEM, RIPDES, and RIDOT PAP approvals shall be provided as part of the next land development review submission. Condition number 6, operation and maintenance plan, including annual training for fire and other first responders, a decommissioning plan, and proof of liability insurance shall be finalized and provided as part of the next land development review submission. Condition number 7, cost of removal shall be calculated as part of the next land development review submission, and a surety bond to cover that cost shall be posted prior to issuance of any building permits. Condition 8, all preliminary and final plan checklist requirements shall be fulfilled. Condition 9, preliminary and final plan approval shall be combined. The planning board further finds that proposed development subject to the conditions opposed. Number 1, is consistent with the comprehensive community plan and has satisfactorily addressed the issues where there are no inconsistencies in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws, section 45.330. 2, is in compliance with the standards and provisions of the Forest zoning ordinance in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws, section 45.4. 3, will cause no significant negative environmental impacts. 4, will not create individual lots with any physical constraints to the development and building on those lots according to pertinent regulations and building standards would be impracticable. And 5, adequate and permanent physical access to a public street for the development. 6, provides for safe circulation, adequate surface water runoff, suitable building sites, preservation of features that contribute to the attractiveness of the community, and allows for adequate delivery of municipal services. 7, minimizes flood and erosion, soil erosion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I do. I know you guys, you probably checked this out, but you know how I feel about you combining with the preliminary and final plans. And I agree with you in favor of that.
Do you want to make an amendment?
Well, I don't like to, I will go with what the board goes with, but I was, in fact, I missed that when I was going to do it before, but,
You make an amendment, we can have a discussion on it.
okay, at this time I'd like to make an amendment to the draft motion, affirmative master plan approval for condition number 9, preliminary and final plan approvals shall be combined.
Do I have a second? Discussion?
Yeah, the board has enough to do. This is a clear-cut application, and going over these things over and over and over again. This is a very simple application. So we want to get this off our plate. If it comes back, it will be the 3rd time we hear the same thing. So I'd like to see this over with.
Anybody else?
In the past, we have reserved the right, or we have not granted preliminary and final simultaneously, but we have reserved the option at the preliminary hearing to also give final plan approval if we have no further questions. Is that appropriate, Jonathan?
If it's not advertised that way, no.
A preliminary and possible final plan approval.
No, you
It just gets sticky, so.
No, we've been down this road before, you can't, I know it was done many years ago, but it's not proper, you can't do that, it has to be duly advertised. I have to agree with Ron on this, I don't see major concerns with here, it's gonna go to the zoning board for special use and come back to us, and hopefully most of our questions will be answered, but, if anybody else has any discussion? No, we'll take a vote on the board, all in favor, to amend the motion? This is to
Oh,
amend.
to amend the motion, no, to amend.
The amendment, in favor of the amendment, say aye. All opposed? No. All right, so we're back to the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion?
I just want to get the calculation.
That's fine. No further discussion? All right. I'd ask the secretary to poll the board, please.
Joe Perry,
I go last.
I'm sorry, Richard Sparks,
Yes,
Helen Hardy, aye, Michael Carpenter,
Aye.
Tom Mercier,
Aye.
Ron Servacio,
Aye.
Joe Perry,
Aye. Okay, motion passes 6-0. Okay, at this time, we need a motion to recommend special use permit for the zoning board of review. I think in the
So
motion we should,
All right.
I think in the motion we need to address the concerns of the leakage of toxic chemicals to the groundwater and the effect on property values should be addressed at the, you know,
You get that written down?
yeah.
And go with the ground, so moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Done with this at this point, so the next step would be to go to the zoning board for a special use permit.
yes.
by ordinance.
So,
Thank you.
just a comment, we just asked somebody to prove to the zoning board, I guess to negatively prove a comment.
No. They were gonna address the concerns, so they were gonna address, to rectify it and make sure that, the concerns, to address them. You know what I mean? We're not gonna say that.
So I have an understanding, okay, this is important. So I have an understanding, somebody comes in, and I'm not saying this gentleman comes in and says something, has no proof that it could happen, and then we ask them to go to the zoning board and prove that statement incorrect?
This gives them a chance. We relate this to the zoning board, that this was a concern at our hearing. So the applicant is prepared, when they go to the zoning board, if this is gonna come up again, that they're prepared to address it. That's the only thing, it's just so they're prepared to research it, have documentation at the zoning board.
I'm sure they heard it and they're ready.
Well, it's just standard.
Okay,
And we would be addressing the property values anyway as part of the special use permit, so that was going to be covered. But we will also address the concern about the, whether or not hazardous materials are generated that could get into drainage. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board.
Before we have
30 seconds to get the papers.
I need 30 seconds to finish my statement.
Joe, excuse me, Joe. I got skinny legs.
Yes, and I will read that, and then I'll send it to
Good news.
Some of our other
That's why I went the first week.
We're going to continue now to our second. We're going to continue now to our second major land development. We have a combined preliminary and final plan public hearing of applicant Foster Renewables LLC and owners Walter H. and Cynthia M. Steer to construct a 996 kilowatt, .996 megawatt DC ground-mounted solar installation encompassing approximately 5.6 acres with 12.85 acres to be disturbed and related leased area, access drives and gates, pedestrian path to Rhode Island Historical Cemetery, FR 137, vegetated buffer, vegetative establishment of disturbed areas, grading, soil erosion and sedimentation control measures, stormwater drainage best management practices, and electric service extension and structures located on Theodore Foster Drive by pole 19 on 55.49 acres, here plat 18, lot 9 in the agricultural residential AR district. Okay.
Here's the Foster Drive.
Is it Theodore Foster Drive? or-
Yeah,
Theodore Foster.
That's correct.
Drive.
That's right. Okay. I read it and
Yeah, because I got road
it
here.
says road on the, but it is drive. Okay, this time we ask to hear from the applicant.
Yes, my name's Sarah Valley. I am representing the applicant. I'm from Gorham and Gorham. I have Alan Clapp here from Nixon, engineers from Creed Engineering. We're going to just do a brief presentation. We've already been in front of you, and we just want to confirm, answer your questions.
Ron, raise your hand, please. Just someone said, testimony about giving this time, the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so speak back. Okay, when you testify, you go first.
Yes,
State your full name and spell it for the record.
my name is Kevin Demers, D-E-M-E-R-S.
Thank you, sir.
I'm a senior project engineer at Creed Engineering. We've, just a little background, we've been before you in this past December for our master plan hearing and approval at that time. Since that time, we have received our zoning special use permit in March. It was recorded in March, I should say. And we also received our DEM RIPD's stormwater approval in March as well, and we submitted shortly after that. I have the certified cards for the record to hand those in. The abutters have been notified in accordance with the regulations. Just to go over what has changed, I guess, and not rehash everything. Since the master plan, majority of the changes that we made were drainage related. We had some conceptual drainage shown on the master plan and since permitted through DEM. This consisted of reshaping and modifying the grading on the proposed sand filter BMP proposed at the bottom of the slope from the high point of the solar array. In addition to that, we condensed the stone trench, which was previously shown off of the edge of pavement. We've now incorporated that to have no buffer off the edge of pavement and therefore provide a narrower width to the driveway and shoulder into the solar array. The drainage is provided beneath the driveway in this area. And also the one other thing we did was show the exact inverts on the proposed culvert crossing, which continues the swale on either side of the proposed driveway. And to clarify, there have been no changes to the actual driveway, the solar array itself, and the surrounding limited disturbance and fence since the master plan submittal. And I think in reviewing the conditions, Alan can speak to it if he has any comments, but the conditions were appropriate, the draft conditions we received, and we've also responded to the master plan conditions that were issued back in December. And I think that's really a general summary, and if there's any specific questions from the board or public, we can answer those as needed.
Thank you.
Joe? And reviewing the conditions, okay, I think that the committee should build like number 3 and number 6 that we added to the last ones. There should be some cookie cutter ones that we start out with. And then the additionals should be added on, so we have the same thing, we say the same thing to every person.
Some
that comes
boilerplate.
before. Right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Boilerplate, I knew there was a thank you.
Well, the difference, I think, is this is a preliminary
That's
plan, Ron, so,
Yeah.
you know, in the master plan, there's different requirements, and at this stage, they require further
Okay,
things that they don't have in the beginning, because it's not required at master plan, it's only required at this point.
I wanted to ask, there is the pedestrian path to the Rhode Island Historic Cemetery. And I know that I saw it on the plan, but I didn't see anything about it. And I'm not sure if it's appropriate to have it in the conditions. The Caldwell Cemetery is just off the, is right on that piece of property, or about that piece of property. And it says pedestrian path to Rhode Island Historic Cemetery, FR 137.
Yeah, they haven't agreed, I believe, to that.
Well, I think it's part of the, if it is
Plan.
part of their plan, that plan is submitted.
Okay,
So-
so if it's on the plan,
Yes,
and it is, I do remember seeing
and
it.
the plans and
On
conditions,
the
so
plan.
if they want to
Okay.
confirm that it is on the,
That's correct. We show a 5-foot path to the cemetery from the main driveway to continue to provide access to that historical cemetery.
Okay, any further questions from Mr. Ramirez?
Okay, I'm probably playing catch up here. This is combined preliminary and final approval
Right.
that we're gonna consider. Are we appropriately adding conditions that existing we couldn't?
We can add conditions.
I'm not saying,
No, he was just
I
saying
would
that,
think it would fall in that category. I would kind of echo what Ron just suggested, that we should have the training, the Knox box in as part of one of the conditions, just as a, that's essential. And I
you
don't,
have the breakdown, these are all normal conditions of any, and then you build your extras on top of those.
because your main concern is safety for your employees and for the general public. And that's all these conditions imply. And in order to achieve that goal, we have felt comfortable with the annual on-site safety training for all the reasons we already discussed in the previous hearing. So,
I don't understand, now, it's, in the proposal and analysis, these things are mentioned, but they're not mentioned as conditions of them. So if they're not conditions, it's still required, isn't it? I mean, I think it's required by ordinance,
right, you can
and
add
so
it if
it's
you want.
not necessary because of that.
I'm pretty sure that we
But we
have
have-
added them as conditions to previous solar installations. To the one across Route 6.
I would assume that the knockbox may or may not be on the plan. If it is, again, you don't have to, but you may add conditions at this stage, so it's not, if you want to do that.
Why don't
We
we just
require
add,
it in all.
why don't we just add it to keep everything consistent with what we just
Yeah, we
did?
can, yeah. That's fine. Yeah,
I'd like to make a motion that we add,
I think,
not fun.
We can do that, like we did on the last one. We'll come
I
back.
think the applicant does.
No, just to reiterate, we do have an
I'm
operation,
sorry, just state your name, spell it for the record.
Alan Clapp, ALAN, and CLAPP.
Maybe it needs to be sworn in, right?
Yes. So it's-
We have included in our operations and maintenance plan narratively to include a Knox box. I believe we have it in the detail as well. So it is in the package, but we don't disagree at all with having it to be a condition. Either way you want to do it, it'll be like,
What about the annual training?
that is in one of your conditions that you asked for,
So is,
that I read.
this is, my comments are more our housekeeping for future, okay, to the new planner, all right, versus this particular thing in front of us.
We always did have that in there. You can add it, you can usually like.
That's true, we should add the Knox box,
Yeah.
the annual training, I don't see it in a condition.
But he said it's in
It's in the plan.
plan. It's in the plan, but we can add it as a condition.
It's in the O&M agreement that was submitted with the application.
Okay. But we can just add those two things in there. Just to keep consistency.
Did anybody have any questions for the applicant?
Just one, big site, gonna take a while to get it in. How you doing with your car purchase agreement? Because you only got a year to complete this thing.
Right.
It's a
2-year period.
Confident with that, you can get all this done?
Okay.
Okay. That come up a few times where, I don't know how much grading you have to do and so forth. But don't get caught short because it's expensive.
It's a hard deadline, yes.
It is, I don't know why it is, but it is, and that goes with your relationship with National Grid. You've been working with them, they're very helpful. You have lots of information. Just for information purposes, because I've mentioned it a couple of times, as we go through these solar approvals, I think it's important for the board to know, when you're over, and you're into distributed generation, when you go past the 500 kW mark, you're dealing with ISO, and that's a bid power buyback, which dictates your power purchase agreement with National Grid. Could you just talk about how you sell power and how you also sell energy credits? Just so everybody understands how that revenue flow works.
Well, we bid into the Rhode Island Renewable Energy Program competitively for the size system that you have. And they select certain projects that meet their criteria, essentially choosing the lowest developer's cost. Essentially, they are agreeing to pay us that revenue. It's a number of cents per kilowatt hour that we produce. And that's agreed to over a 20-year period. So that is our revenue source for these projects. And again, we compete against other developers for that number. Sometimes you don't get selected and you bid again at a lower price at a later date. Once you've been selected, as Mike mentioned, there's a 2-year window. We pay for the improvements that they require, and then we have 2 years to permit and construct our project and actually tie into the grid. And then there's an approval process through the ISO that essentially they are agreeing to purchase our kilowatt hours, what we're producing, into the grid. It's a general distribution of our power into the grid. It doesn't go to a specific place or a specific entity. And again, when we're done building, they'll come out and actually commission our project to make sure, A, that it produces the power that we said in the beginning and confirm all of that, and then we end up with a final agreement that's in place that lasts for the 20 years contractual.
I hope that, I was just for clarity here, and I hope because we're doing this, we should all understand that as a requirement to purchase alternate energy that the utilities have. And that's because they're still polluting. So when they purchase alternate energy, clean energy, it's usually at a higher rate than it costs them to produce the energy. So the offset comes in the rate that's being paid to the solar arrays, and if it happens to be wind power, it's a similar situation. We also have that situation, and everybody should know, a situation also exists at the Rhode Island landfill, where power is generated, goes back to the grid with an ISO purchase agreement, and energy credits are earned that can be sold to the utility as well to offset their use of fossil fuel. So we read a lot about this stuff. I think it's good for the town, everybody in the town, and the board especially, to know that we are part of it. Okay, we're producing clean energy, alternate energy, and it offsets the fossil fuel.
Thank you.
I got one little quick question that maybe you could answer, but I'll address it to the board.
Is that part of the public comment?
Yes, yeah.
Now, these feed into a substation, I'm assuming, and as,
Oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry,
all right.
no, no.
sorry, I thought we
That's
were
okay, well, that's,
Kind of with maintenance.
that's
just going to tail on his
yeah,
comment.
yeah, I just have to stick to the rules. Okay, any further questions from the board? Okay, at this time I'll open up the public comment. Anybody like to?
Gordon Rogers, it's just a,
Swear you solemnly swear the testimony you're going to give about the truth, the whole truth, and the truth, something like that.
Yep. It's just a question, so it's not about truth. These energy sources feed into substations, commonly, correct? And at a certain point, the substations have to be either upgraded, and I'm not curious, but I was under the understanding that the Chapman Hill substation, which I'm assuming this is at the bottom of the hill, this one will be feeding in the Chopnest, I'm assuming, should be a pretty good assumption. Is that at capacity? Are there any plans to upgrade that to accept? Because I only accept more, because it seems to me like it was already over capacity. I don't know who can answer that.
Have an answer?
Basically, each application, which we did, we request National Grid to analyze our proposal of essentially 1 megawatt of power. And then they then tell us, after we pay for an impact study, how much that'll cost, how much the improvements will cost for us to interconnect. So
you're paying for the upgrade of the substation?
we pay for our share of upgrades for our system, and applicants after us will do the same thing, but yet there's more power that's there. So there could be other projects ahead of you, and there is a limit to how much that they need to accept at any given substation. And typically, as more distributed generating power comes to a substation, the improvements that they need start to get a little exponential towards the end of that. So clearly, it's in people's interest to be there sooner rather than later as far as those improvements. So I can't answer your question. You simply need to make that application, then they will respond to you and let you know where you're at.
Thank you, Mr. White. Anybody else would like to speak in favor of this application? Hearing none. Anybody that would like to speak in opposition to this application? Hearing none. Any general comments from the public before I close the public hearing? Okay, I'll close the public hearing at this time. 8:29. Okay, we'll bring this back to the board. Mark our exhibits at this time. I'll mark mark the full set of plans and all attachments as town exhibit number 1. And if the applicant has no objections to the staff report, I'll mark the staff report as town exhibit number 2. Okay. Discussion from the board. As far as amendment, you were looking to add some language to the...
Do we have we wanted to add a couple of things to it, didn't we?
Okay. So we're gonna do the same as we did for the first, add the Knox box and training.
Okay, I just want to, the assistant solicitor, could just check that out, and make sure it's moving forward.
All right.
I'll write it for you.
Okay. Now, you have the updated, you have the,
I hope it's the one, it's the one that's in the package.
no, the one in the package is not, the packet isn't the one, it's been.
Maybe in the agenda?
No, the motion, I got
The
a.
motion is in our packet.
Yes, but that's not, there were some
That's not
changes
the-
to the conditions since
Right.
then. There was some changes, minor changes as far as the conditions. I have one here.
You have it?
I have one.
Yeah, what, you want to just make the notes on that?
Yes.
Comments?
I think-
Joanne, are you making those notes because? Okay.
Joe, which one is the new one? Dated May 17, 27?
Well, today's May 17th.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, there was an error on the date that
The new one in the third whereas should read pre-application on 9/21/2016.
This deal with it.
Okay. So I think it makes most sense to just add two separate conditions because unlike the previous application, they don't fit neatly in any of the conditions that are already listed. So if you're fine with that, I'm just gonna add a 13 and a 14 to be the knock box.
Yeah, I got the old,
I'll write it and I'll pass this down.
you want to look at it. Did you want to see the new one now?
No, I was trying to get it from Tom.
Yeah.
No, so no. There's a date change and then just.
I'm gonna give you,
some of the language.
Tom, I'm gonna give you the whole new one with the added.
thank you. Yeah, I got this one, this was the
It was on the table in front of us.
too much paperwork. Too much paperwork. You try to read everything and then you zing.
Great fires this winter.
We're keeping Cheryl busy.
You gotta write drive, it's in the road, I think. Yeah.
I read it quickly.
It's right at the top.
This is it, okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chair, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the grant combined preliminary and final plan approval for the proposed solar installation. Whereas representatives of the applicant Forster Renewable LLC and owners Walter H. and Cynthia M. Steer appeared before the planning board for property located on Theodore Forster Drive by pole 19, being plat 18 lot 9 on 55.49 acres in an agricultural/residential AR district to construct a 906 kilowatt, .996 M1 DC ground mounted solar installation encompassing approximately 5.6 acres with 12.85 acres to be disturbed and related leased area, access drives and gates, pedestrian path without historical cemetery, FR 137, vegetated buffer, vegetative establishment of disturbed areas, grading, soil erosion, and sedimentary controls, control measures, stormwater / drainage, best management practices, and electrical service extensions and structures. And whereas the planning board received reports and testimony from town departments, abutting property owners, and representatives of the applicant regarding the application, and whereas the planning board heard the land development proposal as a pre-application of 9/21/2016 and granted master plan approval on 12/7/2016. And whereas the development meets historic and cemetery setback, off-street loading, and off-street parking requirements, and no land dedication or payment in lieu is required because no lots are being created. And whereas solar installation was granted a special use permit from the zoning board review on February 8, 2017. Further, having considered the requirements of Rhode Island General Laws of 1956 as amended, Section 45-2330, and based on the hearing conducted before the planning board on February presented to the testimony presented to the board and recommendations of the staff, review and consideration of the exhibits made part of the record, and personal knowledge of the area in question. Now, the approval is subject to the following conditions. Condition 1, combined preliminary and final plan approval is based on plans entitled preliminary / final submission, Theodore Foster Drive. So revised 4/20/2017. And marked as Town Exhibit 1 at the May 17th, 2017 hearing, prepared by Decreed Engineering, stamped and signed by Kevin Demirs, registered professional engineer. Condition 2, the site plan sheet shall be recorded as a final plan. Condition 3, the project access drive require a driveway permit from the Forest Department of Public Works. Condition number 4, a surety bond of $7,785 to cover the removal costs shall be posted prior to issuance of any building permits. Condition number 5, building permits including electrical and mechanical shall be obtained from the building officials prior to the start of construction. Proof of liability insurance will be submitted with the permit applications and kept on file in town. Condition 6, the identification sign should be no greater than 4 square feet in the area. Condition 7, a copy of the completed notice of termination sent to the RIPDES program about site stabilization and finalization of the work shall be sent to the town. Condition 8, the access easement agreement shall be submitted and recorded in land evidence within 30 days of receipt of the RIPDES notice of termination. Condition number 9, National Grid Power Purchase Agreement shall be submitted and recorded in the land evidence within 30 days of receipt of the RIPDES notice of termination. Condition 10, the installation shall be subject to the periodic inspections by the Forest building official. Condition number 11, appropriate building permits shall be obtained from the building official upon decommissioning and proof of Rhode Island DEM RIPDES permits applied. Condition 12, an FFOS notice of land use change to Rhode Island DEM for reduction in acreage shall be recorded in Forest land evidence prior to issuance of any building permits. Condition 13, that the site shall contain a Knox box for emergency access. Condition 14, that the applicant shall provide annual training for fire and other first responders. The planning board further finds that the proposed development is subject to the condition imposed. 1, is consistent with the comprehensive community plan and has satisfactorily addressed the issues where there are inconsistencies in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws, section 4523(30). 2, in compliance with the standards and provisions of the Forest zoning ordinance in accordance with Rhode Island General Laws 4524. 3, will cause no significant negative environmental impacts. 4, will not create individual lots with any physical constraints to development. The building on those lots according to the permit regulations and building standards would be impracticable. And 5, has adequate and permanent physical access to public street for the development. Number 6, provides for safe circulation, adequate service for the runoff from suitable building sites, preservation features that contribute to the attractiveness of the community, and allows for adequate delivery of municipal services. 7, minimizes flooding and soil erosion.
Do we have a second? Second. Second on the right. Discussion? Hearing none. Ask the secretary to hold the board, please.
Richard Sparks,
Aye.
Ellen Hardy votes aye. Mike Carpenter,
Aye.
Tom Versier,
Aye.
Ron Servacio,
Aye.
Joe Perry,
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Good luck. Appreciate it.
You need this?
I do, please.
You walk in that floor.
You got a lot of documents, you know?
Thank you.
Yeah, no,
See you later, Sarah. Yeah, tell your dad I was talking about it.
You're gonna get the driver's home. We got a cop over there, get up and take us home.
I do. Okay, great.
Watch out for the cord. Joanna. So I don't want to trip on the cord.
okay, let's.
Oh, it's a small piece.
It's dry now.
Yeah, it's a drive now. You can get boosted. Oh, come on.
Nice to meet you, Carol. Sorry.
I didn't have to get to the section of the building. It's really funny because
It's the
that's
same address.
more than that, rich.
In Connecticut, we got one.
You know, they've been living it for years.
Name the originals.
They make their own barrels.
Okay.
Hey, Joe. The one we just approved, they said that the training was in the operating maintenance plan. Just so when you're gonna make the correction, it's actually in the emergency response.
knew it was somewhere.
Yeah, it should be in there. We should have one way that.
Mike says that the emergency response is in the.
In the staff report,
It's in the staff report, right.
only it's not on the operation maintenance like
And
you said.
it's not in the operation maintenance agreement, I took a look
No,
at it.
it's in the emergency response. Okay, that's a different section of this. They were just excited, that's all.
All right, we're gonna move on. We have one more thing on the agenda tonight.
Yes, so, and I don't know that anybody get a copy of that letter or anything.
I had sent it out to everybody by email, everybody got it. I sent that, and I sent the planning department's summary that was presented to the town council also.
I went into town
Whoops.
to look at the plans,
Yeah, about the-
and it was clear to me that that
Do you want to
project.
read what we're talking about?
Round Hill Road.
Yes.
Just a second. I'm sorry, I lost my new agenda. All right, so at the request of the town council, the board is to review the foregoing application and provide correspondence to DEM with concerns. For the DEM application number 15-0013 by J&C Properties LLC of Plainfield 2208, Plainfield Pike, Johnson, Rhode Island, 02919, is requesting permission to alter freshwater wetlands in the towns of Situate and Foster, Rhode Island, 600 feet east of Round Hill Road and approximately 4,000 feet southeast of the intersection of Round Hill Road and Anderson Pike, Route 6 utility pole number 14, assessor's plat 15, lot 33, and assessor's plat 22, lot 34, Foster, Rhode Island, and assessor's plat 36, lot 11 and 28, lots 11 and 28 of Situate, Rhode Island. So the town council received this on their agenda on Thursday night. Unfortunately, we got this and comments are due by the 22nd of this month at the DEM. So DEM wants our opinion if there's any objections to the
It
ultimate.
says, in this where they want to build thing, that only the road comes into Forster.
Yeah,
This was-
And we discussed this before, we told them,
we had this application come before
yeah,
us.
and we told them, no.
We
They
told
had
them no.
pre-app back in 2014, and they wanted to put a road and build 4 lots in Situate. At that time, they were gonna go over to Situate and see if they can go that way. I don't know how that turned out. They've come back, now they wanna put 1 lot on the Foster side and 3 lots in Situate and build this road up. Basically, at this point, it's just DEM is asking for an opinion. They have an application to alter the wetlands,
Right,
okay? And they need feedback from the town. So they asked the council to have the town boards review it, and if we have any objections, to submit it. It's still DEM's determination on this. This is their first step. It's not an application for a road at this point, or a subdivision.
It's a private road, right?
Right.
It's a private road, but it is 50 feet wide, the
The
private access.
the road will be 25. Yeah.
75 feet by quarter.
Yeah.
we don't have private roads in Forster.
No, but
No.
I just want to stay on subject. This is, at this point, we are discussing the
But
wetlands.
Is this right on the reservoir? No?
Can I just say to you, Tom, that when you look at the map of the development, lot 1 is a very long, thin lot, which consists of its Foster thing, and it's, I think it's barely 200,000 square feet. I may be mistaken about that, but it's barely, you know, it's, they have made a lot to to include Foster in the subdivision.
So is that the extent of our comments regarding the Foster land? or-
No, our comments are only on the alteration of the wetlands at this time.
In Foster
they
or
want-
in Foster?
They want the town's comments,
In Foster.
how this will affect the wetlands. And if you looked at the letter and the report from DEM,
Yeah.
there are certain
Right,
conditions
right, I
that
get that.
they want us to address. And then, of course, any other concerns, of course, can be added. You know, this came up with
Actually,
the
I
council meeting.
printed out the latest.
I want to just let the solicitor.
I just want to let the board know that what happens is when people go to apply for these permits to DEM, DEM has public hearings and they do send notice to certain butters and they send it to the town for any comment. If DEM were to grant the application for the alteration of the wetlands, and this applicant comes before you, you need to give deference to DEM's findings
on the alteration of wetlands. So you could not then go and deny it based on the wetlands alteration. Maybe on other aspects, but DEM's determination on the wetlands is significant, and you're bound by that. So that's why it's important, and part of the case law discusses that this is an open process with DEM, and if the town, the board, or the abutters had issues, it should have been brought up prior to the granting of the DEM permit. So that's why it's important that if you do have issues, that they be laid out now.
So,
Do you have,
When we heard this before, what we have here is a sovereignty issue. Because they have no access to the Situate property through Situate. None whatsoever. Nor do they wish to create access because it would take them way out of the way. So the cart before the horse situation comes here. And this is what we agreed to the last time. We said, if you can get access to your Situate property from Situate, then they can take responsibility for all the support services that you require. Because we're talking about a development, trash pickup, emergency services, police protection.
the only thing that DEM wants to hear is about the wetlands.
DEM can say that because they only have one requirement. We're gonna, as you said, we have to ride with this decision.
Well, then they have to come to you and apply, and those other concerns are valid.
You can't retract your agreement. You have to say, we are not happy with this for a host of other reasons, but we agree with the DEM wetlands alteration.
well, I believe we could add other things besides the wetlands in our letter to DEM with other concerns that might.
But they don't
DEM
care.
doesn't care, all they want to know
They
is,
want to know about the wetlands. I know when they came up at the council meeting about the runoff from the DEM, what the public work was concerned about.
Yeah, build back.
That can be added.
because that
The letter.
deals
Right.
with the,
We've got
yes.
water runoff,
Yeah.
so it
Mr. Chair.
affects it.
Exactly what wetlands are being affected?
Excuse me?
What wetlands are being affected?
Do you have the letter,
You don't have
Tom? You have to look
Well,
at-
it's still on my computer, unfortunately.
You want to look it over?
Tom,
You gotta look at the plans.
Can I just
Yeah.
make one comment, please?
Sure.
And this is relative to what Mike said. The fact of the matter is, they have got plenty of frontage in Situate, right?
No.
They have, yes, they have frontage on Danielson Pike. The frontage is all wet. And therefore, they can't access it from Situate.
You only have 50 feet right away.
All right,
They have 50 feet of right away on Danielson Pike. And I'm glad to be corrected, but I thought that the town line was well before that, and that they,
Is there
right,
Mr. Chair,
so that is 50
when you
feet.
get a moment.
This is where the road is.
Okay, go ahead.
I know.
No, I'll wait till everybody's
So
all
here's,
panel, talking about the same
This is
thing.
about
They have a
wetlands.
50-foot right away off of Danielson Pike.
Okay.
That's why they couldn't come in through their Situate. Apparently didn't grant the right of way. You know, I think it's all wet through here. It's actually only, it dries out at where this lot comes in. This is where the lot, this is all wet on this side.
yeah, and the lot one is here, basically.
Yeah, because everything on this side is wet. All their lots that are proposed to this original are on the south side of the lot, not on the north side. The north side is wet. That's why they can't come in from the north.
I have some wetlands.
Ron?
No, I'm waiting, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Let-
No, I want you to speak,
Um,
please.
yeah, I made a presentation to the council the other night, okay? If we're never going to have business in this community, which we're never gonna have, okay, because of so many limitations. One of the things we could have, if we built 50 houses, 2 kids per house, the state gives us $3,000 per child, that's $6,000. The average tax in town per house is $5,000 or $6,000. 50 houses will produce $650,000 worth of revenue per year with absolutely no cost to the schools because of fixed costs. Our fixed costs are set. We have openings in all grades unless every kid was in the 4th grade, all right? So what we're being asked to do is comment on the wetlands, right?
Correct.
And one house in Foster. If the houses in Situate don't have garbage pickup or don't have police protection or anything else, that's their problem. They pay their taxes in Situate. One house in Foster isn't gonna do anything to the town. Us commenting on DEM regulations of wetlands, we shouldn't even comment. We should wait to hear from them what they say the problem with their wetlands is and their runoff, whether they need retention ponds and the rest, and let them build one house in Foster. All right? So people own property in this community, and they ought to have the right to use their property. So I don't know how big the lot is, what alterations they need from zoning and planning, but that's to come. What we're being asked to is to comment on wetlands, which, for the most part, it's DEM's problem. So, no, excuse me, I still have the floor, okay? No, it wasn't.
Easy.
Okay, so I believe that our comment to DEM should say, whatever you want. Because their comments on wetlands are gonna be the way it is. We've all said that.
I disagree.
Okay,
Are you done, Ron?
yeah, now I'm done,
I
thank
don't
you.
want to interrupt.
No,
I'm sorry. No, they solicited the comments from us. We're not doing this on our own. They wrote a letter to the town, asking the town to do this.
I was at the council meeting.
Right, and the council asked us to do this. That's why we are doing this.
So,
We're not doing this because we think we know
but we don't have to do
anything
it.
DEM doesn't. But they want our comments to see if we, obviously, they're trying to go through a process and our comments are important to them, how the town feels about it. Is that the take you get?
Okay.
Yes, and I think that the board, this board and the zoning board has not been happy with being bound by DEM decisions in the past. And at this point, you do have a chance, if there are concerns, to express them to DEM prior. And whatever DEM does, they do, so.
All right, Richard. Everyone expects DEM to do everything. Like, we have wetland protection areas in town, and everyone says, well, DEM's gonna have the rules and regulations to protect that. But I think what was envisioned is that that would be delegated to the local cities and towns so that they could judge what was important and how these resources should be managed and implement appropriate ordinances like was supposed to happen in the conservation overlay districts. That probably would have addressed that. I have a different perspective than Ron. My undergraduate degree was in biology, and
Mine too.
Richard has the floor.
yeah. So I think wetlands are important for wildlife reasons, for quality of life reasons. If even with these the solar installations, if there's no significant impact in the environment, well, when you do 10, 20, 100, or 1,000, now you've had a significant impact on the environment. You've fragmented the forest. You've made it not good for lots of kinds of wildlife, and I think that's an important value. It's expressed in the comprehensive plan, and so I think DEM wants to know how we feel about that. And one of the things I would say is yeah, I would like to see that the wildlife aspect addressed, and it's in the wetland section. I haven't read it all, but these are the most recent 2014 rules and regulations. So I just want to say that I think that should be addressed. And I look at this project and, you know, it's 130 acres. You've got 4 proposed house lots, and then if you look at the plans, there's a spur of a road that goes, and it looks like it's the beginning of another road. Well, who's to say they're not gonna put 100 houses up there on the Situate side at some point? And if it's all wet, what we're really supporting is that every wetland, and this becomes a model of what we allow for development in wetlands, and we construct retention ponds, and we channel everything and put it in ditches and ponds, and all of the natural areas won't be the same again. So those are my concerns about that.
You know, so,
Yeah, that's good for now.
You have something, John?
yeah, they want to build a new road. The project there is located approximately 1,600 feet off of Round Hill Road. You know, the 1,200-foot road restriction.
I'm so sorry, I missed a part of that. They want to go.
They want to put a new road in, okay? And the proposed project is located approximately 1,600 feet east of Round Hill Road. If you're going to use Round Hill Road, the road they're going to put in is going to be 1,600 feet. We have a 1,200-foot road restriction. However, we do run into some problems because how much of that road is in the Situate?
I'm sorry.
We have no control of the road that goes in the Situate side. We only have control over what goes in on the Foster side. The Foster side will not be over 1,200 feet. The way I'm taking it is the Situate side, unless you notice something on that, the Situate side would have more road than we would. So therefore, that rule and regulation that we have wouldn't work because it would be a different town that's going to be in. However, they're going to have to fill in, move, and readjust wetlands when they do this to build this road. And that's going to have an impact in the rainy season and the 500-year flood plan and whatever else. And they want to put at least 4 houses now. Okay, but they do have, I'm trying to remember, see how much, I forget how much acres you have. Somebody said, what, Richard, you said 136 acres in
It's 130 plus.
in Situate? Or all
Most of it's in Situate.
Okay,
So if I can clarify, Tom, I think there's 130 in Situate on one lot, and 16 of that lot is in the Foster side. It's the same lot, except 16 of that 130, then 16 in Foster, but it's all part of the same lot. It's 146, and the lot they're using for access is 9 acres where the road's going to go through that. The frontage on Round Hill Road is a 9-acre lot.
But they're going to have to, the proposed alterations to freshwater wetlands consist of clearing, soil disturbance, grading and filling, and installation of drainage structures of the road. The proposed or resulting alteration or disturbance of at least 27,202 square foot, 0.63 acres of freshwater wetlands is noted above. So they're going to alter wetlands to get in there to build this road, and this is going to cause, I think, problems later on when they start building the houses with the wetland area, and then they have some forest area that's also not clean. We classify it differently. I forget exactly the way they classify it, but the forest area is classified a little different, but it's still in that type of structure. So, forest is wetland, that's what they call it, forest is wetland. Okay, so that's small.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So to clarify, just to get us somewhere here, I just want
Tom isn't finished.
Well, no, I'm just saying the fact that, you know, if it's got forest and wetland, and you got swampland, and they're going to do a lot of grading and filling to put this road in, they're gonna need a lot of different drainage, to offset all this, and I just think it's gonna be a major problem later on. That's it, all I got to say.
I just,
Man.
can I just
Yeah.
try to, let's just, I just want to put a couple things that have been mentioned, because we're going to list these things that are, excuse me. I want to list the concerns, so if we make a list as we go along, then we can look at the different people's concerns, and then, you know,
Well, let
discuss.
me make a comment, Joe, because before you get to your concerns, okay? There are concerns, and I want to answer them.
All right, Ron, I just want to list what already's been mentioned, so I don't lose it.
Okay.
Now,
Come on,
Ron,
guys.
don't worry about that. So Tom has a concern about the effect on the wetlands when the houses are built and the runoff. Richard had a concern about the effect on the wildlife, I believe. Okay. So those two of the concerns we have so far. That's all. Now, Ron,
All right,
just want to.
just as we started this, I have an undergraduate degree in biology, specifically field zoology and botany, field botany, okay? If anybody knows the history, it's called the history of a beaver dam, all right? A beaver dam turns a stream into a pond, which later becomes a field, all right? The idea that human beings are worried about manipulation of the soil, it happens in nature all the time. Anybody who's from New Jersey or Pennsylvania, you can put a shed up and the next day there'll be a fox building under your shed or a skunk. The deer will come up to your backyard next to you drinking coffee on your deck and eat your bushes, all right? The idea that I don't want to see a house every place, all right? But we're talking about one house in Foster, a piece of a road in Foster, and how the Foster piece of those wetlands are going to be affected. Not 130-something acres, okay? So I want to discuss, Joe, I want to see what effect we're talking about in Foster. This is the Foster Planning Board.
Right. The road is in Foster.
The road is in Foster X
And the
amount of feet.
alteration of wetlands is in Foster.
But how much?
0.63 acres, is it?
All the alteration is on the Foster side of the land.
All right.
The wetland they're going through is in Foster, and it's dry when they get into Situate, where they turn into the right there. So, one of the comments on the effect of nature, on the list of things from Juliana, was protection of life and or property from flooding or flood flows by retaining, storing, metering, or slowing flood water from storm events. So I think that's something that would fit into what Tom was concerned about, I believe. Now, the effect on wildlife would provide and maintain valuable wildlife habitats. So those are two of our concerns so far from the list that DEM gave us. I'm gonna mention the other things that we are here to discuss, so everybody's clear on this. Providing and maintaining surface and or groundwater supplies by acting as a recharge or discharge area.
And that's always a concern.
No, that's one of the things we can be concerned about. Providing and maintaining high-value recreation areas, I don't think that probably fits as far as our concerns. I don't know if anybody thinks it does. Protecting and maintaining water quality, or otherwise impacting the functions and values provided by the freshwater wetlands to be altered. So those are the 6 things that DEM wants us to look at and comment on. I think we have commented on 2 so far. Does anybody have any comments that fit into any of those categories?
Yes. There's also a concern, which you just read, on the groundwater and surface water supplies. I mean, you gotta evaluate the impact as part of the process, is all I'm saying.
Okay, does anybody else have anything on any of those concerns?
If I can just add, It is certainly well within the Situate Reservoir watershed. Entirely.
And the water quality is also a concern if you're building houses and then people go in and apply fertilizers to the lawns and that type of thing, it can impact the quality of the water.
Also, do we know if there's any endangered species in the area?
Maybe.
Just a reinforcement of our discussion. Joe?
Excuse me.
I'm
sorry.
Just as a reinforcement of what you just pointed out, the 5 items appear as numbered items in the letter we got from Martin D. Wenchick. And they appear as bulleted items, and I don't know where this letter came from.
Juliana prepared that.
Okay, so the logical response that addresses the question that's being asked is pretty well defined by those 5 items and the repeat of those 5 items by the planner. And I think if we limit ourselves to paraphrasing how we feel those items are valid, we'll be in line with what their expectations are, because they're just acting as a comment on the wetlands, or the proposed wetlands alteration. So if we find that all 5 of those things are definitely factors for the following reasons, as you just did, I think that meets the requirement. Maybe we're simplifying, but we could go on and on with this. And if we get too far ahead, we're gonna be in the same category as they are with cart before the horse. There are some extreme concerns here, okay? Over and above wetlands, you know, it's out there, the tinsel on the Christmas tree. When they come before us, I'm gonna ask them some really tough questions. But that's not what we're here for. We're just here to participate in the DEM evaluation. Okay? Am I being too simple? I think you hit the nail on the head by going through those stuff. We're getting off on a tangent. I guess I gotta ask that question. Where did this come from? These guys were back here in 14. What have they been doing?
They applied to the DEM for
I think they
alteration.
redid
That
their,
was
whatever
crazy.
happened, they redid their plan.
Doesn't it seem a little odd?
They had, I'm not sure what, I believe Situate had denied them, and so they modified the development to try again with a new.
You know, to me, I'm sorry, but again, I oversimplify everything, because I don't have much time to think about things, but we got a housing deficit right now, big time. I mean, in the business I'm in, it's out of control. And if these guys are just bouncing around and trying to, you know, on site development, putting all this stuff, and I help people do that. I mean, God wants to make some money, he's gotta get out there on several different fronts. It just hits me the wrong way, because I would think that they just resubmit their original proposal and follow the procedure, rather than try to get a DEM approval before they even come before us. Because we already made it very clear to them that they had some serious issues to address. We didn't tell them we were gonna approve it, but we sent them packing basically on the issue, on some basic issues that they needed, that they hadn't addressed, that they needed to. And we never heard from them for 3 years. All of a sudden, here they come again.
Okay, Mike, we're gonna try to stick to this and get out of here.
What are you gonna do when people quit paying their taxes on land you won't let them use?
All right, I'm gonna just remind the board to stay on topic here, because it's getting late, and I don't think this is anything that's really gonna have anything to do with
Well,
what
Mike's has a suggestion. I'll make a motion that we follow Mike's suggestion and put forth our objections in regards to those 5 things. That'll end this discussion.
Yeah. All right, can I just address your motion before? I'd like to have you amend your motion just to direct the solicitor to form a letter to DEM with our objections and concerns that were presented at tonight's meeting.
He doesn't have to do a formal amendment because it hasn't been seconded, so he has to do changes.
Well, that's why I just want to tell him.
That's fine.
That's how we want to do it. All right. So, exactly.
express our concerns based on the size.
The solicitor's gonna form a letter.
But it does not include the recreational.
No.
We decided that was not our concern.
Right. Of our concerns that were discussed this evening,
Yes.
on our comments, she's gonna form a letter to DEM with our objections to this
Yes.
alteration.
Yes.
She's been making notes, she knows me.
Fine, I don't even know, do we need a motion?
Please.
This is,
Ron
All
made
right, do I have a second?
You have a
So like a second.
Second by Mike, okay. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
so you're not gonna address the windmills tonight, because it was on the agenda?
Here's your agenda.
You might just want to.
Yeah, I would like to know about the comprehensive plan, because we had
It's on my agenda.
Oh, that's on our agenda.
I would just,
So like,
Don't we
make
have
it
a
up
June
and help the
1st
other people
deadline?
develop property, for the
for
property.
the next submission.
Makes perfect, it makes perfect sense. Ruin everybody else's world, I know.
for preliminary.
We have our second draft. All right, just an FYI that, everybody received this draft of, the comprehensive plan, the second draft that we received from the consultant, I emailed everybody. You all got that?
Joe, I'm not sure.
Yes.
Only because,
How come some people,
well.
You got it.
It's in the Dropbox, you mailed the
there's
link.
a drop, I mailed the letter and the link to,
I'm not sure, only because I've been kind of like out of the circuit, so can you just do it to me again?
yeah, I had sent it out, and there was a forwarded from the consultant, and there's a Dropbox link on it, which you can go in and see the second draft.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
I'm gonna have,
Let me do drop
we'll
off.
have the planner as soon as she gets on board, we're gonna have her send it out to everybody as a document so we can review
Yeah,
it.
'cause I
As a
just-
document.
Yeah.
Oh, please.